The ability to have somebody who is kind of epitomizes what you think your country stands for has always been a major ambition.
The rivalry between Queen Camilla and Princess Anne has been on for a long time, with most of the blame being directed towards the division between the two being caused by Camilla becoming a member of the royal family. This has led to obvious cracks in relationships, and it has been obvious in the way the two act in public. Their chemistry speaks of internal conflicts, and many have seen this play out. Today we will talk about instances where the conflict between these two was most obvious. The rivalry was started by the long and scandalous affair that Camilla Parker Bowles had with then Prince Charles while he was still married to Princess Diana. Princess Anne has never been one to approve of Camilla's history and scandal. Such disapproval, despite efforts to suppress it, has been evidenced in a subtle but telling manner in public appearances, attendance at royal occasions, and in body language between the two women, which is mostly formal and distancing. Princess Anne has been one of the most committed and strict members of the family for a very long time, and is blessed with such virtues of responsibility, discipline, and solidity. She is admired for her uncompromising commitment to the monarchical traditions, and has been a force of stability within the institution. It is therefore not surprising that she should perceive the promotion of Camilla into the royal family as an issue. Camilla and Charles endured public shame, and Diana's eventual demise only served to fuel their exposure. For Anne, who has devoted her entire working life to helping maintain the monarchical good name, Camilla's existence could be an ongoing reminder of a moment of crisis that she would prefer to overlook. There has understandably been friction between the two on many occasions, even though the royal family is so highly trained to come together as a team in the face of the rest of the world. The friction between the two was most obvious on the 2022 Platinum Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth II. The moment was meant to be one of peace in the family, but witnesses had testified that there was obviously no affection between Anne and Camilla. The two would hardly speak, with Anne's attitude appearing stiff and standoffish when she was around Camilla. While with the rest of her family, Anne seemed a lot more cheerful, but has been observed to be cold and distant towards Camilla. The public didn't miss this, and they've pointed out how their encounter lacks that relaxed informality that is present among family members. Another episode that brought the underlying tension into the limelight was the coronation of King Charles III in 2023. Although the ceremony had been choreographed so perfectly to present an image of togetherness, activities showed the reality of Camilla's and Anne's relationship. While Anne fulfilled the role of gold stick in waiting, her countenance was serious, as everybody else was chuckling and grinning. Camilla seemed to go out of her way to avoid Anne, which was not missed by the media and the general public. These two women were never observed to spend a quiet minute together or experience a moment of real friendship, and this fueled rumors about what was going on between them. The media has picked up these dynamics since then. There have been reports that stated Anne was against bringing Camilla into the family as a future queen. In spite of the royal family's efforts to show Camilla as a loving and devoted wife, Anne's reluctance to welcome her fully has been read as a diplomatic protest. Some believe that Anne never forgave Camilla for having the affair with Charles, and particularly for the hurt this inflicted on Diana, as well as for the way this tarnished the image of the monarchy in front of the general public. What is intriguing regarding the conflict between these two is that both have strong wills, but in completely different manners. Anne is famously blunt, reserved, and willing to say what she thinks, however annoying. Camilla, by contrast, has had to learn to be more tactful and diplomatic, more inclined to employ wit and charm to extricate herself from difficult situations. All this contrast could have only driven them further apart. Anne could easily view Camilla's informal and contemporary lifestyle as being incompatible with her own vision of how the monarchy must be run. Despite the best effort being made at a display of harmony, the public has been anything but blind to the chill between them. The media have been dissecting their interactions, most of them noting how Anne and Camilla seem to maintain a distance between them. Even when they sit together at an event, They don't share the easy and casual chat that would be the hallmark of close friendship. Even on a simpler plane, they each exhibit different roles under the public lens too. Anne has long been praised for being the hard-working royal, fulfilling several hundred engagements every year without drawing attention. Camilla, on the other hand, has had to move carefully due to her past. Others believe that Anne, never having been involved in a scandal herself, may feel that Camilla is unsuitable to sit as queen, considering her past scandals. For Anne, who is so dedicated to the institution, this is an unpalatable pill to swallow. While both women strive to keep up appearances, the cracks in their relationship are apparent to those who notice. From the cold encounters to the lack of unguarded moments between them to the effort they make to make sure that they do not accidentally bump into each other, the message is clear. They live together due to obligation rather than love for one another. Princess Anne's dedication to tradition would forever stain her perception of Camilla, so that no matter how much time has passed, their relationship will always be burdened by the past. Although they might never outwardly display tension, the world has already witnessed enough to know that behind doors, the relationship between them remains tangled. The issue between Queen Camilla and Princess Anne represents only one example of the broader fault lines within the British royal family, where conflicts between modernity and tradition have long existed. Most often they have been generational in nature, with older, more traditional members pushing back against those who would modernize the monarchy or break from its exacting expectations. The strained relationship between Prince William and Prince Harry, the contrasting leadership styles of the late Queen Elizabeth II and King Charles III, and even that between Prince Philip and his son Charles, all signal a clash between maintaining centuries-old tradition and embracing the new world. The rift between William and Harry is quite possibly the most publicly well-documented instance of this conflict. Both princes had been raised under the same royal expectations, but their concepts of duty, family, and public lifestyles have now irretrievably diverged. William, the future king, has taken a traditionalist path, adhering strictly to royal traditions and putting the continuity of the monarchy above all else. His guarded approach follows the belief of his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, who followed the never complain, never explain principle. Harry, on the other hand, has deliberately eschewed this approach in favor of openness, emotional exposure, and a new type of reaction to royal duty. His decision, taken with Meghan Markle, to exit royal life and then to discuss freely their challenges in interviews and documentaries, was seen as a deviation from the norm. The once friendly rapport between the siblings is now cold and formal, their meetings at public appearances like the Platinum Jubilee or the funeral of Prince Philip brimming with tension. The two brothers no longer appear comfortable with one another, but instead address each other with an awkward smile. Body language specialists have said that William is tense and defensive around Harry, and that Harry, in attempting to be affable at times, is greeted with hostile reactions. The strain mirrors the greater conflict within the institution, with one brother holding on to the institution as it has always been, and the other pushing for change. In the same manner, the dynamics between King Charles III and Queen Elizabeth II, though never actively adversarial, were characterized by submerged but profound differences in their visions for the monarchy. Elizabeth was tradition personified. However, Charles had for some time been viewed as a reformer, anxious to modernize the monarchy with its increased openness, environmental consciousness, and interaction with society. His outspoken views on issues such as global warming and architecture regularly conflicted with his mother's more conventional style. Accounts describe Elizabeth as indulgent of Charles's passions, but also occasionally finding his forays into public life risky, since she believed royals had to stay above politics in order to ensure the future of the monarchy. The difference is also marked in their reactions to crises. After Diana's death, Elizabeth's hesitation to mourn in public was seen as improper, and Charles was reported to have pressed for more public mourning. Decades later, when the Sussexes departed royal life, Elizabeth's reaction was characteristically stoic, prioritizing unity and duty, while Charles was said to be more emotionally conflicted between his roles as father and future king. Such distinctions highlight the gulf between Elizabeth's strict traditionalism and Charles's preference for a publicly emotional and responsive monarchy. Also, Prince Philip's relationship with Charles was a textbook example of the generational gap. Philip, a tough traditionalist and military strategist, would regularly fight with Charles's more reserved and sensitive nature. Philip was a believer in toughness and is famously known to have told a young Charles to just get on with it, rather than whining about his hardships at boarding school. Charles himself, however, broke more freely in later life to talk of his grim childhood, stepping outside the royal Stoic tradition. Their differing outlooks strained their lifelong friendship, with Philip seeming to be exasperated with Charles's unconventional passions, such as organic farming and alternative medicine, which were considered peripheral to royal duties. Another example of this rivalry can be observed in the relationship between Prince Andrew and the rest of the royal family. Andrew has become a bit of an embarrassment due to his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein and the scandals that have ensued. His insistence on not fading quietly into the background has pitted him against the more traditional damage control style of the family. William and Charles wanted to cut Andrew loose in a bid to save the reputation of the monarchy, underscoring the pull between personal choices and institutional sustenance. Even with the younger generation, the rift persists. Princesses Eugenie and Beatrice, while not as much in the public spotlight as their cousins, have undertaken royal duties in their own fashion, with Eugenie forging a new media-savvy trail, while Beatrice is playing it safe. Also, contrast Kate Middleton's smooth, conciliatory public persona with Meghan Markle's more unpredictable activist personality. What these strained relationships reveal is a monarchy caught between the burden of its history and the stress of an ever-changing world. The traditionalists are interested in duty, restraint, and long-term institutional viability, while others are on the side of a more expressive, adaptable monarchy, even if it means jettisoning centuries of tradition. These are not voiced, but they simmer beneath the icy politeness of official reunions, in the set pieces, and in the absence of some family members. Ultimately, the monarchy's future will hinge on its ability to broker these competing visions. Will it modernize and lose its soul, or will it acquire individuality and lose unity? These are the questions that will shape not just the dynamics of the family, but the very survival of the institution at a time when tradition and change battle each other. And for as long as such tensions exist, the royal family will remain a fascinating example of the broader struggle between past and future. In the midst of it all, the family still tries its best to hold things together. Every public performance and every statement are carefully planned not to indicate cracks behind the veneer, but the tensions always find a way out. Its survival depends on its ability to appear unified, at the cost of suppressing personal grievances in the name of responsibility, typically adding up the periodic crisis when the mask slips. By adhering to centuries of tradition, arranged walkabouts, stage balcony promenades, and stage-managed speeches, there is a sense of order and continuity, but many have felt the underlying tensions. On occasions as big as Trooping the Color or state banquets, the family is seen sticking to protocol as against being themselves. The royal family often prioritizes duty, a doctrine ordained by the late Queen Elizabeth II, who would always remark that things have to be seen to be believed. The doctrine permits them to sustain contradictions in the back of their minds behind closed doors. However, maintaining this illusion of unity has been more difficult in the era of the internet, where every glance, nod, or stumble is analyzed in real time by courtiers and body language gurus. Social media amplifies even the most trivial gestures, making it practically impossible to manage the narrative completely. The efforts to fake unity do not work, because the act of faking comes across as artificial or contrived. For example, during the Platinum Jubilee and King Charles III's coronation, the tense interactions between Prince Harry and other family members could not be avoided, despite efforts to play down the drama. The more they tried to act like nothing was amiss, the more they became obvious. The struggle between marrying personal emotions and public obligation is most apparent in figures such as Prince William, who has to juggle his future role as king with his conflicted relationship with his brother. When he is in public, he tries to keep up the act, but there have been testimonies to the fact that things are not as good as they seem. Similarly, King Charles, who spent decades waiting to be crowned, now has to deal with family collapse and still project stability, a role that has become increasingly difficult with Harry's public rejection and Andrew's scandals. The younger royal family members, raised in a period when genuineness is valued, have struggled to adapt to the old ceremonial rituals of the monarchy. Prince Harry's rebellion was a display of being fed up with the need to prioritize tradition over personal well-being. Speaking out about what they lived through, as his wife and he did in interviews, documentaries, and Harry's book Spare, was the direct opposite of what was expected. This has left the institution with the struggle of maintaining traditional protocols when the new generation disregards them, knowing the public now wants openness. This poses a challenge for the crown as they strive to balance tradition and modernity in a bid to remain relevant. Figures like Queen Camilla have been caught in the middle of this, as she remains a symbol of what shouldn't be in the family. Her relationship with Princess Anne is polite but at arm's length, held together by the need to maintain a united front in public. The approach adopted by the crown is avoiding as much as possible the risk of embarrassing confrontations and making sure that when they inevitably do occur, they are fleeting and tightly scripted. The public watches with a combination of awe and alarm, aware that the future of the monarchy is in its power to change without losing its identity. Various questions are asked on whether the institution can survive as conflicts become inevitable. The younger generation's call for a more human and more emotionally connected monarchy is not reconcilable with the traditionalist perception that secrecy is the key to crown power. The more effort the family puts into containing these tensions, the more everyone wonders whether the monarchy can ever possibly have anything to offer a world that increasingly desires more authenticity than spectacle. The media plays a two-way role in this delicate balance. One set of royals toes the line, creating an illusion of unity and avoiding taking overt positions on certain matters. The other set is comprised of freestanding press, constantly dissecting every encounter for hints of what's really behind the family veneer. The royals require the media to maintain public interest, yet the media's attraction to the internal drama destroys their attempts to seem unified. The monarchy's future now hangs in the balance. Bottling emotions make the institution seem cold and aloof, as it did in the aftermath of Diana's death, which caused the popular indignation that followed. An excessive amount of liberty, however, risks dismantling the mystique that has long been its signature. The royal family's attempt at scripting their existence is threatened by the reality that they no longer exclusively own the narrative. Harry and Meghan's sit-down with Oprah and their subsequent Netflix docuseries established that dissenting voices cannot always be muffled. Ultimately, the failure of the royal family to keep disputes behind closed doors is a symptom of a larger dilemma. Can an institution that is over a century old and rooted in tradition possibly thrive in an age that worships originality and effective truth? Perhaps the solution is in whether the monarchy can reach a balance, which allows for evolutionary changes in small incremental steps that will not threaten or undermine the solidity that has endured for so long. However, in the meantime, as the world holds its breath, the task of maintaining the pretense of unity will become ever more burdensome. In that light, many have questioned the ability of the monarchy to maintain relevance in this age, as they seem so disconnected from the demands of modern society. Hopefully, William will be able to bridge this gap in his time. That's all for this video, and we will see you in the next one.